On the morning of June 25th, I lost my owner. That morning ended 50 scheduled shows. Millions of fans never got the concert they were waiting for. Someone in that room needed help, the kind only a phone call could bring. And the first call went somewhere else. Not a hospital, not family, somewhere else. I do not interpret what I store. I am not designed to recognize when a pattern becomes dangerous, but I know what I logged. Each entry taken alone means nothing. Together, they say something else entirely. I am a phone. I store contact names, timestamps, duration, direction.
Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.
Sometime in spring, a new label entered my contact list. One word: doctor. I searched my previous log for this contact. New number, new name. 3 days later, the same number appeared again. Then again 2 days after that. Within 2 weeks, the doctor's entry was appearing in my log more than any other name. More than the tour coordinator. More than the production company that had been a consistent entry since early spring. I noticed this only because I store in sequence. When I retrieve those entries and read them back in order, the pattern is visible. Same number, same number, same number. Clustered in a way that no other contact was. In those first weeks, all the calls were outbound, short exchanges, consistent timing. Based on what I had stored by mid-May, one interpretation was available and easy to accept. 50 shows. An artist preparing for the largest tour commitment of his later career. A physician brought in specifically for this production period. Frequent contact between patient and doctor, initiated by the patient, at a consistent pace. Short calls because things were manageable. I am not designed to evaluate whether an interpretation fits. I only store the data behind it. A patient reaching out to his physician. A professional arrangement operating at the pace, a demanding preparation required. For several weeks, that was the only picture the log seemed to offer. By the end of May, I noticed something I did not have a category for. The outbound column had changed. He was no longer placing most of these calls. The doctor's number was appearing in my incoming log first. The doctor initiated. I searched my own log for a comparable pattern. A contact shifting from outbound to incoming at this frequency. I found nothing earlier that matched it. I tried to apply what I had stored in May to what I was now storing, but the direction had reversed. My system does not have a category for a physician initiating contact, repeatedly from one number only, beginning to push later into the night. 11 in the evening, past midnight, after 1 in the morning. But when I retrieve those entries in sequence, they do not resemble what came before them. The first reading had just encountered something it could not hold. June arrived. The production contacts intensified during the day. The names I associated with the rehearsal schedule appeared multiple times each afternoon. Calls in sequence. The pattern of those entries suggested preparation accelerating toward a fixed point. But after those contacts went quiet each evening, a different log began. By 9 or 10 at night, the production names stopped appearing. What remained was one entry, the doctor's number, incoming, late, then stillness. I can register temperature. During those evenings after the doctor's call closed, the temperature I logged dropped toward cool. I was not being held. I had been set on a surface somewhere and left. Nothing moved through me until morning. Every night in June had the same shape. One late call from the same number. Then nothing until morning. I do not know what the stillness was. I am not built to know what happens in a room when I am not active. And that the same single contact was responsible for closing each evening, every night, without exception. By mid-June, a second reading had taken shape from the log. One possibility: the patient was in genuine distress, and the physician, aware of this, was escalating contact because the situation required it. More calls, later hours. A doctor who recognized something was wrong and responded by staying closer. A conscientious response to a worsening situation. One interpretation says the record shows a physician doing more because more was needed. Here is what that interpretation requires. A physician managing a patient in escalating distress. The contact record around that physician should show other names entering the picture: a specialist, a hospital, a colleague, a second medical contact of any kind. I searched the log. No hospital, no specialist, no second physician, not one. The loop was closed. A physician who is genuinely alarmed about a patient does not remain the only person managing it. It looks like something being kept from expanding outward. The second reading could not survive. What was absent from the log? Maybe the stillness each night was the outcome. Not a patient declining under insufficient attention, a patient finally resting. One reading says that was the goal being achieved. The physician was present each evening because the physician was the one making the rest possible. And rest was exactly what 50 shows required. I applied this to the timestamps through June. If the treatment was working, if the patient was finding consistent rest, the calls should have stabilized. The frequency should have dropped as the weeks passed. The log does not show that. Through the first week of June, through the second, into the third, the doctor's number appeared more often in the later weeks than in the earlier ones. Not tapering, not stabilizing, increasing. The third reading could not hold what the timestamp showed. One more interpretation remained from what I was storing. The physician had gotten in too deep. The closed loop, the escalating frequency, the late-night presence across weeks. Not a plan, not indifference. The actions of someone managing alone, without a clear path forward. A man in over his depth. I could not confirm or contradict this from timestamps alone. What I could do was watch for what the morning of June 25th would show. On the morning of June 25th, I went silent. He could not reach for me. The physician made calls from another device. The first outbound call did not go to emergency services. The number he reached, I had that number too, stored under a personal label, not anyone whose contact information suggested training or authority to respond to what was happening in that room. The reading that said he was in over his depth requires this to look like confusion. A person in crisis, disoriented, reaching for the wrong name first out of shock. It was a specific number, reached deliberately, and then another call was placed, also not emergency services. The gap between the first outbound call that morning and the call that eventually brought help to that address was not a few seconds of disorientation. At 12:21 in the afternoon, emergency services were reached.
Sir, we have a gentleman here that needs help and he's not breathing yet.
By then, everything else had already been logged. 2 days before, the rehearsal location appeared in my log multiple times that afternoon. Production contacts, the last cluster of that kind I would store. Late that evening, a different contact appeared. Not the production office, not the physician, someone closer. The call was brief. The physician's number came in later. Same pattern as every other night. That was June 23rd. June 24th was quieter, fewer contacts. The physician appeared in the evening. Then the screen went dark for the last time before June 25th began. Years later, my storage was accessed by people whose contact information I had never held. My records were read in a room I could not see. A name was connected to what happened in that room. That name belonged to the physician. I stored all of it, every contact, every timestamp. What I could not store was whether any of it was being watched while it was happening. I have no entry for that. My system has no category for what was not done. One name was held responsible for what happened in that room. I have no record of anyone asking about the weeks that built it. Do you think one name was enough? Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.